everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm John, and today we're here to talk about the 2000 Wong Kar-Wai classic, In the Mood for Love. We're also here to talk about its new 4K Blu-ray release that just came out. But before we dive into all that, if you are a fan of 4K Blu-ray reviews, movie reviews, tech and game reviews, we try to do them all here on the channel, and nothing would help us out more than by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. So In the Mood for Love was released in 2000, is written and directed by Wong Kar-Wai, and it stars Maggie Cheung and Tony Leung in the two lead roles. And this film is considered one of the greatest films of all time, if not one of the greatest Asian films ever made. Wong Kar-Wai is actually considered one of the greatest directors to ever walk this planet. He's directed some of cinema's all-time greatest films, such as The Chuckling Express, Happy Together, and 2046. He's directed many more of that. The Criterion Collection themselves has released one of the greatest, I think, collections of his films ever released. But they have actually released only one film from that today and gave it the 4K treatment, and that is In the Mood for Love. And that is because that is considered such a classic film. Tony Leung actually won the Best Actor at the Cannes Film Festival when this originally debuted, and it also won the Palme d'Or that year. So it is considered just an all-time classic film, and rightfully so, because it is one of the most beautiful looking films that I have ever seen. It's one of the most well-acted films that I have ever seen. The screenplay is beautiful. There's just so much beauty in this film. Now, this film follows around two characters, Maggie Cheung's Mrs. Chan and Tony Leung's Chow. They both rent rooms from neighboring apartments. They're both married, but both of them soon realize that their husband and their wives, respectively, are having an affair with each other. And through their loneliness and just not being able to communicate with their own significant others, and the fact that their significant others seem to always be away from them, they develop their own relationship with each other. And they realize that they not only have a lot in common, but they are both so lonely and almost broken people trying to find their way in this world and almost feel like abandoned and like they need somebody to lean on, especially Maggie Cheung's character, because her character, she's taking it the hardest, whereas Tony Leung's character of Chow, he seems to be just rolling with the punches and being like, okay, well, that's how life is. He's a journalist. You know, he's more into his work. He's developing a martial arts serial. Actually, that's how him and Maggie Cheung's character really do take off, and their relationship is developing this together, working together. He kind of feels like inspiration from her in the sense that, you know, he doesn't have that moral support from his own wife. And, you know, she wants to have a purpose. She's spending a lot of time in this apartment with her landlord and the other people who rent a room from her, and she's just very lonely. And every night she goes to the noodle stand to get dinner because she doesn't want to cook, and every night, you know, Tony Leung's character notices this, and he's just as lonely. He just wants to find somebody to communicate with and just interact with. And that is where the beauty in this movie is as far as character development, because the story itself is really just about missed opportunities and about lost love and what could have been. You know, I don't want to spoil the entire film for you, because I do think that this is one of the most beautiful films that has ever been put to film, because this was shot on 35mm film. It didn't use digital cameras, and for the year 2000, that was the rise of digital camera age. And to shoot this on 35mm film, I think really does lend itself to the beauty of this film, because for me, besides how good the story is, because it is a beautiful story, I can't sell the story short, but for me, man, the shining star is the cinematography on this film. And the cinematography was actually done by two cinematographers. Usually Wong Kar-Wai, before this, had always worked with Christopher Doyle on all his films, but this actually turned out to be a 15-month shoot. And Wong Kar-Wai, when he writes a story, he might adjust it on the fly, and they did 15 months of shooting on this film, and the story itself was condensed down into 98 minutes. And that really is something that you have to say about how good the editor does on this movie, because I'm sure he worked side by side with Wong Kar-Wai the whole way, but to actually where this film was going and then how it actually ended up, that is just phenomenal editing. And I edit our YouTube videos, and I could never imagine editing a film like In the Mood for Love, because there are just so many shots in this movie, and knowing where to put them in the film, it's got to be unbelievable. Yes, you have the director there who has this clear-cut vision. Well, I guess it's not really a clear-cut vision if you're Wong Kar-Wai, because he's always adjusting on the fly, changing the script, changing the story where he wants the story to go, because Wong Kar-Wai is just a genius. He really is. He knows what he wants, but it's very demanding on his actors. And, you know, Tony Leung has worked with him on many different films, right from The Chuckling Express all the way through 2046, and I believe he's worked with him since then, too. You know, it could be very demanding, and that's why the first cinematographer, Christopher Doyle, left, and then he was replaced by Mark Lee Ping Bing, and that's actually incredible, because this movie, I think, is one of the best shot films ever. there is certain shots in this movie that will sit with you for the rest of your life. Like, you can take a screenshot of this film and put it on your wall, and when we get to the 4K Blu-ray review, you know, I have so much to say about the beauty of this film, and it's just crazy that the first cinematographer actually left, and then they had to be replaced, and they still found a way to get a beautiful film out of this. And that just, you know, again, like, I want to give a lot of credit to the editor, William Chang. That it's just so impressive to me how well to condense a beautiful story like this into 98 minutes in the world that we live in now, where it feels like a 3-hour movie comes out all the time because people just don't know where to cut. To see some great editing to get this film out and still be under 2 hours really is a feat to the beauty of this movie, and I really can't sell the film short. If you have never seen In the Mood for Love, I promise you, you will not be disappointed by it. You know, I know some people have a problem with foreign films. It's not their thing, not using subtitles, and I totally get that. If you can get over that barrier, I promise you that there is a great film waiting for you on the other side, and you will not be disappointed by it. So, without further ado, let's talk about its brand new Criterion 4K Blu-ray release. Alright guys, this is the brand new release from Criterion Collection. It is not a new release from the Criterion Collection, let's be very clear. This is actually release number 147, so Criterion has released this a few times in the past. Like I said, this is also in a great Wong Kar-Wai package that came out from Criterion that includes, I believe, either all or at least most of his films. And for me, that was actually really hard because I actually really want that entire package. And then I saw that In the Mood for Love was coming to 4K, which is obviously separate from that entire package. And this has also been released previously on its own as well. I believe the last standalone Blu-ray release was 2012, so it's been 10 years. You know, it makes it tougher to sell that entire package of Wong Kar-Wai's films when Criterion has just released this on its own in 4K, and it makes you wonder, are they going to be releasing more movies out of that collection? Is the Chuckling Express going to get a 4K release sometime down the line? Or is Happy Together going to get a 4K release down the line? I don't know, and I would really love to have those films in my collection, but now it's like a wait and see kind of thing, because now that In the Mood for Love has gotten its 4K release, do I save up my money and buy that entire package, just believing that we won't get that down the line, and then maybe if we do, I upgrade those to 4K, or do I just sit and wait, or do I just pull the trigger and buy that entire collection and just double up on In the Mood for Love? It's really a tough call, but one thing I can honestly say about In the Mood for Love's 4K, it's gorgeous. I mean, obviously, this is a very beautiful film to begin with. The source material is top shelf. You know, like I said, it was shot on film, not using digital cameras, and that's always going to lend itself amazingly to the 4K experience. Wong Kar-Wai actually oversaw the video and audio transfer of this, which is very strange because they actually did not use HDR on this transfer, which I found to be extremely strange because and I've been seeing this a lot with Criterion lately, like Night of the Living Dead, its 4K upgrade also didn't have HDR on it, but it sounds like Wong Kar-Wai was very happy with this transfer, and rightfully so, because it is a beautiful transfer. I compared it to the Blu-ray, and it was a very noticeable upgrade, and for just something that was just resolution upgrades, and I guess they messed around with the colors a little bit, even though there is no HDR, it still really popped in certain scenes. 3 scenes in particular really stood out to me. One is when Tony Leung's Chow is smoking, and the smoke is rising up, and it's over a black background, and you can just see that fresh smoke over a black background. The black is so deep, and the white of the smoke, or the very light gray of the smoke, it looked phenomenal on the 4K, and I went and checked again on the Blu-ray, and it looked a little bit flatter on the Blu-ray, so that was a big uptick. Later in the movie, where Maggie Cheung and Tony Leung's character are caught in the rain and they're underneath the umbrella, on the Blu-ray that looked pretty good. It's a very beautiful scene. Maggie Cheung's dress really does pop in that, but then when you get to the 4K, the green on that dress was incredible, because this movie does use greens a lot, like a very greenish kind of blue throughout the entire film, and all that just really did pop on the 4K, and again without HDR, so I was very impressed actually with the transfer. I compared them back to back on all these scenes, and it really was a noticeable jump from the Blu-ray to the 4K, and I was very surprised. I guess I shouldn't be, because Criterion has always put out good Blu-rays even before the 4Ks came. Everyone would always say, like, okay, yes, for example, The Silence of the Lambs was only released on Blu-ray, and I believe they had a 4K release, and I think the Criterion Blu-ray was equal to that 4K. Same thing with Do the Right Thing. There's a Do the Right Thing Criterion release, and then there is a standalone 4K release, and they were very comparable, so it's very strange that, I don't know what kind of magic they work, or what kind of witchcraft they have, but for some reason, they have a way of getting the most out of a very limited technology, and to have no HDR in here, here I was just surprised because it still looked so beautiful. And again, and then the very end of the movie, the very last scene, when he's in Cambodia, and the way the camera is just wrapping around from the right, there's like a sun flare over the lens, and it looks good on the Blu-ray, but it pops on the 4K to where you really do take notice of it. And that is just incredible. I think the visuals are a 10 out of 10, and even without HDR, I truly loved them. I don't even know what would have happened if there was Dolby Vision and regular HDR10 over it. But I guess like when you're going scene to scene, and Wong Kar-Wai is somebody who really does put so much effort into his films, I'm sure that he really wanted to make sure that this was the best looking release of this film that it's ever been released, and it definitely did that. Now the audio, you don't really have any choices on the audio. It's a regular standard DTS HD 5.1, again overseen by Wong Kar-Wai, it says, and I thought that that was it was a decent audio track. Obviously the score for this is beautiful. It's one of the most iconic scores ever put to film, and it sounded great. It definitely is, you know, I felt like it definitely made good use of all my speakers. This is a very dialogue heavy film. Obviously it's in Cantonese, so there is going to be subtitles. But the audio itself, I thought was very, very good. I thought it was definitely up to Criterion's usual standards. I thought it was a great audio track. You know, obviously no Dolby Atmos, but that's to be expected. And either way, or I thought that the audio track, you know, not the greatest, obviously, but for this type of film, I thought it was really well done. So as far as the packaging, where you get these discs are, this is a 2-disc set. This is the cover. It's actually different than their previous release, so I always do appreciate that. And it's a beautiful looking cover. It's in the regular standard Criterion clear cases. So when you flip it around, you get the back. You get bind number 147 on the side. You open it up. That's your 2-disc set. You know, you get artwork on the interior, which is always appreciated. Some paperwork, a nice little booklet. And this does unfold out into one long paper. It's actually very nice. Now, one thing it's just a minor complaint. I do love that there's individual designs on both discs. I really do appreciate that. But I do not like I never liked it when they layered discs like this. You always have to remove the first disc to get to the second disc. You can try, but you know, you might risk damage trying to get that Blu-ray out without removing the 4K, so I do not recommend that. But I don't like it when they do this. I would have preferred if they put one disc on this side and one disc on this side, and you would have just had to remove the paperwork. But that's a minor complaint. All your extras are going to be on that Blu-ray disc. The 4K disc is just going to have the film, and you can change the subtitles. And that is really it. You can't even change the audio. It's stuck at the 5.1. That's what it's at. All of your extras are going to be on that Blu-ray disc with a compressed version of the 4K. I'm not 100% sure if it's compressed from this 4K or if it's that previous 2012 release that's also in the Wong Kar-Wai collection. I tried to do some research. It doesn't say it on the box, and it doesn't say it anywhere else on the internet where I could find it. So I'm not 100% sure which version's on the Blu-ray, but when I compared them, it was a big noticeable jump from that Blu-ray to the 4K as far as visuals go. Now, all the extras that are on that Blu-ray disc are great. There is a great 2001 directed by Wong Kar-Wai documentary that I watched right after I watched the film that is beautiful, and it really takes you through the making of this film. Also, you're going to see a lot of deleted scenes that aren't in the film. You're going to think, oh, they're making another movie? No, that's just because that's how Wong Kar-Wai makes a movie. He shoots everything that pretty much comes into his mind. He's going to try it out, and then when he gets in the editing room, he's going to put that all together with his editor, and it's going to come out into a beautiful film, and you get to see that all on this documentary. You have plenty of interviews with everybody on the cast and crew, and you're going to want to check that out if you are a fan of this film. There's plenty of other extras on there too. Not the greatest set of extras that I've ever seen on a disc, but for Criterion, it's very good. I think it's actually, it's definitely up to their standards. Maybe not the greatest that they've ever put out, but it's definitely up to their standards. It's still pretty high quality. And for something that's been, and pretty much all the extras have been previously released, I don't think there's anything new in there. So if you're just looking to upgrade, it's really just for that 4K disc. And that 4K disc, like I said, is unbelievable. So it really is just going to come down to, are you a fan of Wong Kar-Wai? If you own that Wong Kar-Wai collection, it's going to be really hard for me to justify you picking up this brand new In the Mood for Love 4K unless you are a big fan of In the Mood for Love, because then you're going to want to see it in its highest quality, and I could definitely recommend and say that this is the highest quality that In the Mood for Love has ever been. It's definitely the definitive version, in my opinion, of the film. I think you're going to want to see it if you're a fan. But if you have that Wong Kar-Wai collection, it's going to be really hard for me to say, hey, you know what, you're going to be doubling up on this movie. It's going to really depend if that's your favorite Wong Kar-Wai movie or not, or where you place it on your all-time Wong Kar-Wai rankings. So it's really going to just come down to the person. But overall, as a package, for me personally, I am very happy with this purchase. I believe Criterion has a 50% off sale in November. I don't think you're going to be disappointed by it. If you've never seen In the Mood for Love, that's a high recommendation. If you have, you already know what you're getting into, and you're going to be a very happy camper, in my opinion. So overall, what would I give this out of 10? I'm going to give this a pretty solid 9 out of 10. I am very happy with my purchase. Again, it really does help when you got a beautiful film to really experience and you're just paying attention to every single shot and all the great acting. But overall, as a package, like I said, that 4K disc is an upgrade. The audio is very good. The extras are really good. Packaging from Criterion, always really good. So you're not going to be disappointed with this purchase. So I promise you, if you buy this, you won't regret it. But if you guys do want to grab this from Criterion or you want to grab it from Amazon, we do have an Amazon affiliate link that we will leave in the description below. If you guys buy it through that link, it's no extra cost to you, and it really does help the channel out. Another thing that really helps the channel out is you liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and then going out and telling all your friends.